Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I have left the awesome and tremendous responsibility of podcast generation far too late. We have reached episode 11 of the Cambodia VR Project podcast. It is March 2nd in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and this is Tom Nichols speaking to you a little bit too late at night. Should have started early, and there's no excuse for it. Absolutely none. It's not like I had this incredibly busy evening. The fact of the matter is I have kind of gotten here at my little apartment in Phnom Penh pretty much the way I am at home. I just kind of hang out and do some of this and some of that and read stuff on the internet and write things and work with my data. It's I could be home right now. So the purpose of this podcast is to summarize the status of the project. Inevitably, it becomes something of a personal journal, but I'm trying to focus on project activities, and there weren't a ton of them today, not that would really stand out so much, but there was some. As I kind of suggested, file management is endless. These 360 videos in particular generate very large files, because it's looking everywhere. There's pretty high resolution, and they have to be transferred first from the camera using its own little internal Wi-Fi thing onto the iPhone where the app is controlling the whole thing, which takes time. And then so I can back them up and work with them and do the things I need to do, I got to get them then off the iPhone onto the laptop. Not such a big deal because then I got a cable, but still, it's a whole process. But it's sometimes it's just the level of work that you want to do, and I think in the background. And so it was a strange day in that sense. I was going to be having my language lesson with Juana sometime fairly early in the morning, about 10 o'clock Friday morning. But I got an email from her late the night before. I'm going into personal journal land here, but saying something had come up. Juana, I've been working with for 9 months now. When I'm back in the States, I connect with her by Skype. We do our Khmer language lessons. I've been studying from a textbook. I'm up to chapter 9 of a 10-chapter book titled Cambodian for Beginners. So once I'm through with one more chapter, I'll be beyond beginnerness, I guess. But anyway, Juana had to cancel at the last minute, so I had a Friday morning wide open, and it's not like I went out and did incredible world-conquering things with it. I just kind of fussed around. So there you go. And in the afternoon, though, I had a time set up where I was going to meet with Sam Nang again. And, I had my first real good quality in-depth time with him the day before. I got really direct and right to the point. Both of us getting a good feel for each other. And what I wanted to do today was do some 360 recording in some place that has something to do with him. The disappointment that I think I spoke about in yesterday's podcast episode was that when I interviewed him here at YK Art House, it just didn't, the place wasn't right. The previous round, when I was here back in November, I interviewed about, 8 people down in the, outside kind of courtyard lobby area of YK Art House. And it made sense. They were just kind of random people who I had met there, some who were on the staff and some who were, I'd met at some networking lunch that was taking place there, or, whatever it was. The setting seemed appropriate for the first round of 360 interviews that I did. But the one I did of Sam Nang yesterday didn't feel right. So I wanted to get to where he is, and I did that. There's a lot of steps to his story, from young 13-year-old kid coming from village, 2010, I think, 8 years ago, with nothing and no musical training in anything, no language training in anything, and one family he sort of knew in the city of Phnom Penh, to now where he has just a toehold instability. He's a talented guy. He did whatever he had to do to survive and make enough money to take English lessons. And when the place that he was having his English lessons had Cambodian Living Arts come one day and kind of show some Khmer instruments being played, that put the idea in his head. I'd like to do that. Yeah, he'd always thought about music, but that was inspiring to him. And so he found the time, on top of the English, on top of the doing jobs to make the money, started learning the sharpe, an amazing traditional Khmer long-necked guitar that is played in a way that sounds like Mississippi blues, and the style of singing that goes along with it is just free form association rap, improvised, and he is good at it, really good. Well, one of the steps in his story was an NGO, non-governmental organization, and there are plenty of them here in Cambodia because Cambodia was so devastated, and the West's response was to try to help them get back up on their feet. I could do podcast after podcast on how are they doing, are they being helpful and whatnot, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to say that there's a lot of NGOs, some of them, from what I can see, do fantastic work, and there is one that's called the Music Art School. That's what they do. They teach kids there who want it for free music skills. There's rooms they can, very rudimentary, but still rooms where they can practice. There's instruments there. There's teachers and all sorts of structure. So that was one of Sam Nang's step up, was to be a student there. Now he is, I guess you'd say, although he wouldn't probably say it this way himself, he's on the staff. He works 4 hours every day. He's a late night security guard. He's able to stay there for the night. That's kind of where he lives, but it's not his permanent place. And there's a lot of drawbacks to that, but that's what he's got right now. And that's where I visited him today. It was a nice place. I mean, I'm really I'm not happy that he is at that point in life. I'd like him to have a lot more of his own, but he doesn't yet. And if he's got to be in some place like that, I'd sure rather have him be at a nice looking place like Music Art School than the bar that he worked at for a year or so and spent the night there on the dirty floor. I'm sure other places where he's had to shack up. So anyway, it was great doing that. He showed me around a little bit, and there, like I say, there's a big piano, and right as you walk in the door, you could see guitars, Western style guitars, but also some traditional stringed Khmer instruments there, and a number of little rooms. It was just a nice place, and we found a room that wasn't being used right then, so we could go off and just did some more recording of him talking, some about himself, some playing. He's a polymath. He's self-taught everything. The Sharpei is his thing, his main instrument, where he's really shines. But he just picks up on things too. He can play the flute a little. He can play the piano some, and the violin some also. But I did some recording of him playing his other instruments, but also the first of my, just right there in the room, him playing the sharp. It's funny. The first time I saw him play, of course, was when we were up, in Prevang province, out in the middle of nowhere at some village, and screaming kids all around him with him playing. That's very different than sitting in a small room back in Phnom Penh with one old guy, me. So the level of energy that he feeds off of from the crowd and then just gives them back in terms of pure joy and whatnot, that wasn't there today, and it's interesting to see. It'd be fun to sort of juxtapose him just showing me show this guy how you play the Sharpei mode versus the kind of electricity that he just generates when he's performing with a crowd that's just sitting there, screaming and really appreciating his work. So I could certainly see that. But I did that. Everything worked. The flaky as it is, the camera worked out, and I didn't ride it too long before I stopped, rest it, and start a new file. But I haven't really looked at all of them yet. I'm actually just finished transferring those files right now. And so probably it'll be the morning before I look and see, how good they are. But gradually I'm accumulating a little, base of stuff of Sam Nang, and hopefully this and a whole lot of other things I'll figure out the right way to assemble in this new kind of web-based TV show that I'm trying to figure out. So, and that's really kind of it for the project today. Strangely enough, the way that Juana sort of at the last minute wasn't able to do my language lesson this morning. Also, I thought I was going to be going out to dinner with someone tonight, and at the last minute that fell apart also. So what happened was, personal journal mode, I was kind of in the main old touristy section of town where I'm not usually anyway, and I knew a restaurant there, a pretty good restaurant. I'd been there before, Kabas, and I went there and walked in, and actually I seen it was just completely crowded, but they seated me. Walked back in, found a nice table, and there was just one guy there and asked if it was okay if I joined him, and he said, yeah. So I ended up with a dinner companion. He's a German professor, a mathematician, but he turned out to be an interesting guy, and he was really just fine for a dinner companion. He had some great travel stories to tell from his youth, and for now, where he's about my age, and he's just starting to get back to traveling again. So anyway, that was fun. That was that. And that also is episode 12 of the Cambodia VR Project podcast. Thanks for listening. This is Tom Nickel in Phnom Penh saying bye for now.